Hey, what is up, mortals? It is JSatwekar here, and welcome to part 6 of What If Aizawa Was in Class 1A. Just wanted to greet you guys by saying sit back and relax. You're in for a treat. And so we begin. Aizawa tumbled through the portal in complete darkness. When he exited the portal, he was in the open air. The dark-haired boy started falling. He noticed he was in the shipwreck zone about 2 seconds before he hit the water. Aizawa quickly righted himself in the water. He went to swim for the surface, but noticed that he was surrounded by villains. The ever-rational Aizawa doubted that he could outswim the villains. Each of his enemies looked like they possessed a quirk that allowed them to move better than him underwater. As these thoughts flowed through his shaggy-haired head, he felt something grab him around the waist. The young man then heard a voice that sounded like it was speaking through a pillow.
"Hold still. I've got you, Aizawa."
Aizawa looked to his left and saw Tsuyu Asui. The frog girl had grabbed his waist and was moving through the water with little effort. It amazed Aizawa that the girl could move through the water as easily as he moved through the air. But it made rational sense that her frog quirk gave her such abilities. As Asui moved them through the water, they came upon Izuku Midoriya. The green-haired boy was in the same position Aizawa had been in. Asui rescued Midoriya just like Aizawa. The frog girl then zoomed off through the water, carrying the two boys away from the villains. Asui deposited the boys on the boat in the middle of the shipwreck stage. The two boys used this short reprieve to catch their breath. While Aizawa inhaled deeply, he noticed that the villains were converging on their location.
Midoriya, Asui, we need to come up with a plan to defeat those villains. They're holding their distance for now, but those conditions will soon change, I fear.
Just call me Sue, please.
The comment from the girl seemed odd to Aizawa's rational mind. Don't you two think it's weird that the villains would put Sue, into this area?
What do you mean, Midoriya?
If I had to guess, it's because the villains don't know what our powers are. That war villain probably just deposited us and our classmates throughout the USJ at random. After all, their goal was to kill All Might. Our class was just in the way.
Do you really think they could kill someone like All Might?
It seems unlikely, but if the villains went to all this trouble, then they probably think they have a way to kill him.
The frog girl's analysis was spot on. Aizawa was impressed by her rational line of thinking. No matter how shocking or horrifying it may have been, it was a reality that they would have to face. This is what heroes face every day. It was the situations like this that they were training for. We can worry about that later. First, let's take care of these villains. Aizawa, do you have adhesive bombs on you?
Yes, I do.
The dark-haired boy pulled out 5 round objects from a pouch on his belt. They were shaped like ball bearings with a button on the top of each. These devices were secondary support items that Aizawa had designed. When the button was pressed, the bomb would go off, releasing a tough, glue-like substance. They were meant to be secondary capture weapons to use if his binding cloth was ineffective.
What are you planning for, Midoriya?
When you see your moment, use the bombs. Midoriya then used full cowling to launch himself into the air. He then positioned himself above the villains and held out his hand with his fingers held up in a flicking motion. The green-haired boy then yelled at the top of his lungs as he released a burst of air pressure by flicking his fingers. The wave of air hit the water, forcing a large area of liquid to be pushed out of the way. Aizawa had little time to admire his friend's tactic. The water rushed to fill the hole left by Midoriya's attack. This caused all the villains in the water to bunch together. Aizawa told Sue to grab him and jump. The frog girl also grabbed Midoriya as she jumped. Aizawa then threw his adhesive bombs into the clump of villains as the group passed overhead. The bombs detonated, causing the villains to become stuck to each other. Midoriya and Aizawa had created a nice villain ball for the police to apprehend. Asui brought the 3 teens to a safe distance from the battle site. As the 3 teens were about to discuss what to do next, a huge pressure wave exploded in an area close to them. That's All Might fighting. He releases big bursts of air pressure like that when he fights.
That just shows why he's the #1 hero.
I was thinking that we should help, but I think we might just get in the way.
We should still get back to the entrance. If I had to guess, All Might is fighting that hulking guy with the bird beak. The hand villain did not seem to be a power type like that, though I did sense something unhinged about him. The villain we need to worry about is the warp gate. He is their way in and out of the facility.
Don't you think it would be better if we went to help our classmates?
No, Aizawa's right. Most of the other villains are probably as effective as the ones we faced in the Shipwreck zone. While they look imposing, they're not really that strong or well-trained. Well, I've just met the other members of Class 1A. They were strong enough to get into UA, so I believe that they can overcome these villains. We need to make sure that these villains cannot get away with committing this attack. Both Aizawa and Asui were moved by Midoriya's resolve and determination to see justice done. Aizawa noticed that Midoriya was flexing his fingers in a strange way.
Sue, could you scout ahead and make sure no villains are nearby?
That's a good idea, Aizawa.
With that comment, Sue bounced off to check the area for villains.
How bad is it?
Midoriya raised his hand and flexed his fingers. They were covered in purple and black bruises. It looks worse than it is. I don't think it's broken, just bruised.
How much power did you use in that airwave?
I used 30%. 20% would probably have done the job and left me with fewer marks. The problem is that the area of impact was so large and the number of villains so great that I thought the 20% might not be enough. While Aizawa understood his friend's logic, it did not take away from the fact that he would be so reckless.
Be more careful. You'll do no one any good if you rip yourself to pieces.
Aizawa glared at Midoriya when he said this to reiterate his point.
Can you still fight?
Yes. My fingers hurt, but they won't slow me down.
Okay. Just watch yourself.
As the boys finished their conversation, Asui returned and told them that the area was clear. With this information, the three teens took off toward the entrance of the USJ. With Aizawa in the lead, the three teens quietly approached the front entrance. What they saw was enough to almost make the reserved Aizawa gasp in surprise. The minor villains were all laid out. All Might was grappling with a hulking bird-faced villain. The clash was causing damage to the whole area. By the front gate, a small group of students were being protected from the warp villain by 13. All the possibilities ran through the teens' minds. They could not decide what to do at this moment.
This guy is tough.
Of course he is. He was designed to be the anti-symbol of peace. He was genetically engineered to withstand your power. As the hand villain continued to monologue about the bird-faced guy he called Nomu, All Might caught sight of Midoriya, Aizawa, and Asui out of the corner of his eyes.
That all sounds impressive, but did you really think that was going to stop me from fighting back? If my students are protected, then what happens to me is unimportant. I will never give in.
With that, All Might launched himself at the Nomu. All Might unleashed a flurry of punches at Nomu. Each one created hurricane-force gusts. Each punch landed harder than the last. The bird-faced creature's immunity to shock being worn down with each blow from the #1 hero.
You may have heard these words before, but here is what they mean. Plus Ultra!
All Might hit Nomu with a punch that sent him flying. The creature went straight through the domed roof of the USJ and flew off into the distance. Aizawa and the others were amazed by this show of force.
Well, villain, is that all you have for me?
Even as All Might said that, white smoke was pouring off his body. The #1 hero could barely move. All he could do was stand there looking victorious. Even the smallest movement would cause him to revert to his weak form. The hand villain had a different reaction to All Might's show of force. He was freaking out, scratching his neck and his eyes bugging out. Why don't things ever go the way I want them to? Kurakiri, we're leaving. This game has been a bust. We lose this level. At that moment, a huge explosion engulfed the area around the gate. Both Bakugo and Kirishima had surprised the warp villain and captured him.
I'm sorry, Tomura Shigaraki. I have been captured.
This caused the already upset hand villain, who was named Tomura Shigaraki, to become even more agitated. All my pawns are broken.
Warp gate captured. You lied, Father. He is just as strong as ever.
Aizawa then knew what his group had to do. Asui, I need you to help our classmates keep their warp gate suppressed. Midoriya, we need to take out the hand villain. The boys shared a look. They knew that the white smoke was a sign that All Might was out of time. He was helpless to move.
Okay, Aizawa.
The frog girl leapt off in the direction of the gate.
How do we do this, Aizawa?
We're at a good place to act now. Shigaraki's appearance and his actions. It's only rational that he has an emitter or transformation-style quirk. So if I will use my quirk to block his power, and you use yours to knock him out.
Aizawa reached into his belt and handed him 2 sets of handcuffs.
Use these to restrain him.
Aizawa activated his quirk, keeping Shigaraki squarely in his sights. Shigaraki looked at All Might with absolute hatred in his eyes.
Well, if I can't escape, then I can take you out, All Might!
The villain lunged at All Might with outstretched hands. When his hands connected with All Might, nothing happened. In that moment, Midoriya used his full cowling to rush Shigaraki. The emerald-haired boy unleashed a single powerful punch upon the gray-haired villain. The force of the blow knocked out Shigaraki and caused all the hands of his body to go flying. The blow also left Midoriya's whole arm badly bruised. Even with the injuries, Midoriya took the handcuffs that Aizawa gave him and cuffed Shigaraki's hands behind his back. The sudden shock of this scene and his exhausted condition made All Might lose his focus for just a moment. This lapse in concentration made the number 1 hero revert to his weak form. The sight of this bone-thin man standing where the hulking pillar of heroism once stood was more of a shock to the students of 1A than the villain attack and the fact that they had stopped it. Tenya, Ida, and the UA teachers entered the scene. The group set about capturing the remaining villains and treating the wounded. The police were then called to arrest and remove the captured villains from the scene. The police were given full permission to investigate the incident by Principal Nezu. Shigaraki, Kurogiri, and the other villains were taken off to prison. The students were looked after and guarded from the media storm as best as they could. The students were also given the next 3 days off to recover. Of course, the students had only received minor bumps and scrapes. Midoriya was the only one with any major injuries, and those were only serious bruises. Recovery Girl healed him and sent him home. When the class reconvened, they had many questions about All Might. Both Midoriya and Aizawa wondered how All Might would answer these questions. The door to the 1A classroom slid open. All Might walked in his weak form, wearing a yellow suit. The class was silent for only a moment. The students then erupted with questions for the number 1 hero.
Why does your body shrink?
Why do you look so emaciated?
Are you stuck like this forever?
Aizawa thought that these were good questions. I know you have many questions. I guess I should start by showing you this. All Might unbuttoned his coat and pulled up his shirt. This revealed his injury. When the students saw the grotesque scars that marred the man's chest, they were horrified. I received this injury about 5 years ago. The public does not know about this fight. I did everything I could to keep this fight a secret so that the people I protect would not worry. The symbol of peace needed to endure, so that people could lead happy lives. The students were silent. None of them, except Midoriya and Aizawa, knew how to process this information. As it stands right now, I can hold muscle form for about 90 minutes. But I can only use my full power for about an hour. The fight with Nomu and the other recent events have taken too much out of me. But it was thanks to your efforts that the strain I was under was diminished. I was extremely impressed by your efforts. None of you were perfect by any means, but what this incident showed is that each of you has the heart of a true hero. Many pros would have turned tail or panicked in a situation like that. But all of you came together and faced the problem head-on. I am so proud to be your homeroom teacher. All the students were touched by this. The more emotional students, like Midoriya, Uraraka, and Ashido, were tearing up. Even Aizawa had to use all his fortitude not to tear up.
So from this day forward, I will be cutting back on my hero work. This has two purposes. First, it will allow me to conserve what little time I have left as the symbol of peace. Hopefully, this will give you young heroes like yourselves a chance to rise and support the ideal of heroism that I helped to create. Second, it will allow me to focus my efforts on molding you into proper heroes.
The class burst out in applause and cries of support for the #1 hero's plan.
Make no mistake, boys and girls, your training will be even more rigorous than before. Show me that you want to be the best. Show me that you can surpass me. With all of that said, you have a new fight ahead of you. The UA Sports Festival is coming.
Meanwhile, a police transport train was moving both Kurogiri and Shigaraki to Tartarus prison. Shigaraki sat in the transport surrounded by guards. His hands and feet were bound with special cuffs to keep him from using his disintegration quirk. His body was also held tight by a type of straitjacket. Shigaraki sat there foaming with hatred and rage. The villain then started to cough. He then expelled a black, liquid-like substance from his mouth. The liquid enveloped him, and he vanished from the transport. One word flowed through Shigaraki's mind as his body vanished. That word was master. Thank you all for indulging yourselves in the story thus far. Hope you enjoyed it. Now, there are a few more things that I'd like to go over before the video ends. First, we've got a second channel called Anime Deep Dive. Anime Deep Dive goes deep into the facts and lore of a wide variety of anime. It's sure to expand your weeb knowledge for all kinds of series, guaranteed. On top of that, we have a third channel called We the Celestials Naruto What Ifs. It's what we do on this channel already, but in the vast world and lore of Naruto. Go check it out if you're in the mood for some jutsu action. On behalf of We the Celestials, I'd like to thank everyone involved in the production of today's awesome content. Their details will be in the description below. If you're perhaps interested in what we do here at WTC, then I would like to extend out an invitation to join the team. The only caveat being we only accept members 16 and older to join our crew. You can find us on our Discord, which you can locate in the description below. Our Discord is an all-around fantastic place to be, whether you're a fan or looking to join our band of misfits. All you gotta do is hit up the recruitment server and sign up for whichever category of work that fulfills your interests. We're always looking for members to join us. Well, that's it from us for today's video, so thank you all for watching and have a great day.